The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to another QuoteWerks 101, our regular series of short presentations, giving you hints and tips for getting the most out of QuoteWerks. And this morning, I'm going to cover line attributes. How do you control how items on your quote appear to the customer in a sales quotation? So good morning, my name is Tim Wilmot and my company Wizard Systems, we're a specialist CRM systems supplier. We help small and mid-sized organizations, mainly in the UK, improve their sales productivity, marketing and customer service through the use of simple and affordable systems like QuoteWerks. This presentation will be about 10 minutes or so, just really an overview of line attributes. There can be quite a lot to it, especially one aspect to line attributes, which I'll allude to very shortly. So just an overview, not meant to be in-depth training. My company, Wizard Systems, during this period, we're offering a lot of online training. We're still in sort of semi-lockdown in the UK. This is the 19th of May, 2020. So if you do have any training requirements, please contact us. The audio part of this presentation is one way only. If you've got any questions, please type those into the question box on your meeting control panel. I'll do my best to answer those after I've shown you line attributes. Also, I'll give you a quick update on QuoteWerks product news, just to keep you in the loop. And this call is being recorded. After the presentation, you'll get an email from our system with a link to the recording, which it doesn't expire. You can play back whenever you want to, and we'll put it on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so quick mention about my company. We are an independent supplier, mainly of CRM systems in QuoteWerks, but we do a few other little bits and pieces as well. And we provide all of the services around QuoteWerks, the software, upgrades, implementation, customization, training, which I've mentioned already. That obviously is online at the moment, but when we're officially out of lockdown, we have 2 training rooms that are Bristol based. So we invite people in for more sort of classroom style training, and we've got a help desk support ready to answer your questions to do with QuoteWerks and anything else CRM related. Okay, so let's get into QuoteWerks and line attributes. So I have created a quotation already with 3 items there. Let me just highlight the 3rd item on this quote. I'll explain why very shortly. So line attributes. Now you can get to line attributes by right-clicking over that item and going to edit line attributes. You'll see there a keyboard shortcut as well, Control and R, or you could click on, in recent versions of QuoteWerks have introduced a little uppercase A button on that toolbar there. We can click on that as well. And up pops the line attributes dialog box. Key thing, the most common thing that you can change about items is to say whether it's optional or not optional. So by default, most items aren't displayed as optional, but as this says here, is this item optional? No, it's not. The important thing with changing it to an optional item is that on your quote, the QuoteWerks system in the layout will actually put in some form of text after the item description to explain to the customer that that is optional. Also, and this is quite important, also the price of an optional item is not included in the quote total or any subtotals that you've got in your quotation. Very important point. Sometimes it might be possible for customers to misinterpret this optional item. They look at the grand total of a quote, they think they're getting exceptional value for money. So you've got to be very careful. about the wording and explaining that the optional items are not, with quotes, they're not included in the total of the quote down here at the bottom. Okay, all those totals there. So I can make that item optional. There is a further checkbox below that to say is selected. So that actually will include the price of the item, even though it's optional. It's going to include the price of this item in the grand total of the quote. If you're using QuoteValet, QuoteValet is the online way of sharing your quote with a customer. So it's presented to the customer as a web page, very good way of interacting with a client, and quite a popular way for certain organizations in sharing their quotation, QuoteValet. On the QuoteValet page, it will be a little checkbox, so the customer can check it, uncheck it, whatever, toggle, whatever, and that will then automatically, it will update the quotation total for you. Exclusive group, just a little bit of explanation about exclusive group. If you had a number of different groups of items in your quotation, so this is a feature of QuoteWerks where you can have logically arranged groups of items. Maybe you're implementing lots of items within different locations. So in your quotation, you may have lots of items and you can arrange them by location 1, lots of items, location 2, all the items in location 2, location 3, all the items in 3. So you could actually have some items that are some optional items that are duplicated in those groups. You don't want to have the customer charge them twice. So that's the option there to make it exclusive to a particular group. So that little section there, optional, is probably, as regards line attributes, is the most common thing that you would change. There are some other options that you can change on the line items. So a pretty obvious one is this item taxable or not taxable. You can change that with a little drop down list there. Do you want to hide the price? You may want to hide the price for certain reasons to the customer. Hiding the quantity, not very common, but it's in there anyway. Allow QuoteValet quantity change. So this would be relevant to QuoteValet again, where the customer, they're presented with this web page showing all the quotation items. Do you want to let the customer up or down the product quantity? Quite a nice feature that, particularly obviously relevant to QuoteValet. Excluding the line in the quote. Do you want to print the line? Well, by default, it's going to be yes, but you may, when you come to printing the quotation, you may want to say no. Printing picture, yes or no. And another feature of QuoteWerks are reoccurring items. So if you're not selling this item, but you're sort of hiring it or renting it, then you can change that and define what the billing cycle is, whether you're charging for it on a monthly or annual basis, for example, and whether you want to include the first payment in the quotation total there. Let me just change that back to no. So there you are, line attributes. So I've got, just to recap, I've got this particular item selected as yes. I click OK. What you will notice is that you may not see this depending on the sort of display you got, but you may be able to see that this is in green. It's no longer in a sort of default font color. It's changed to green. If I now go to create this quote, deliver this quote, print out this quote, I click on my deliver button here. I can obviously choose the quotation layout for this quotation. I have a default quote layout selected. If I just click on preview here, I can show you a little bit about what it's going to look like. So there's my quotation. Let me just zoom in a touch. Go in a little bit more. There we are. There's my 3 items. An example quote layout. Obviously, you can create as many different quote layouts as you want to. My 3rd item was defined as optional. So in my settings in QuoteWerks, I can define define that optional text there. So that's it. Line attributes, great way of defining the look and feel of your items on the quote. There can be a lot more to it, particularly around optional items, the way that works, and also required items as well. You can define your products when you set up your products. You can define other optional items relating to that particular product. We may handle that on a future training session. So as we now do on our regular 101 training sessions, if you've got any questions, particularly around this feature, please type that into your questions section on your meeting control panel. I'll just wait a few seconds. Okay, so question from Carlo. If I have a required item on the quote, can someone make it optional? Yes, they can, Carlo. Yes, so even though it's required, you could make it optional again by going through that process there, right-clicking. I'm not sure if you want that or you don't want that, but that's the way it will work. You can change those line attributes there. Right, next question from Jason. Can you bulk line attributes? If I understand you correctly, yes, you can. So with QuoteWerks, you can hold down your control key and click on selected line items on your quotation and then edit or click on that A icon. And yes, you can change all of those selected items in one process, if that's what you mean. Angelica, maybe. Hopefully I pronounced your name okay. How do you change the optional wording for something else? That's done. Okay, there's a few ways of doing this, but that's done in your system settings, primarily in QuoteWerks. You'll see lots of other options in there. In fact, there's hundreds of options in there for your system settings, but there will be a setting for optional, I think it's just called optional item text or something like that. Ellen, I need to change the font of the whole line for optional items. Can someone contact me about this, please? Yes, I mean that would need a little bit of discussion with you, Ellen, about exactly what you want to achieve there. But yes, you can actually do that with maybe with different detail sections in the quote layout. So the quote layout can further define how some of this text appears within reason. So yeah, we'll contact you after this call. Mark, what is no change as an option? That's just whatever the default is, Mark, it's not going to change it. Kevin, can I change the optional wording that is used on the quote? Yes, Kevin, in your system settings, as Angelica questioned, yeah, in your system settings, there are loads of settings in there. I think you might be able to do a search on the word optional or option or something like that. There's a little search box in there, and you will find the system. It's like a site system setting, so you'll see that in there. I think the default is it just says optional item in square brackets or something like that. Okay, thanks, Jill, for your kind comments. Right, just I don't think there's any more questions there. So thanks very much, all of you, for those. So just to remind you, training at the moment is all online. Wherever you are, we can arrange an online training session, very interactive with you, until such time as we return to a little bit of normality with our training center. Well, in fact, we've been doing online training for a long time, so it doesn't really matter to us. Latest version of QuoteWerks is 5.5. Then within versions, you've got builds. We're currently on build 4. You get updates for QuoteWerks. The only way is getting an upgrade maintenance program from Wizard Systems, an affordable annual fee to make sure you're on the latest releases. And well, I hope you enjoyed this morning. If you're listening to this recording, please subscribe to us or keep watching out on our website or our blog or our Twitter feed for up and coming QuoteWorks sessions. But certainly during this period, this time, every Tuesday, generally in the morning, 10 a.m. UK time, we're doing free training on QuoteWorks, just picking on little topics here and there. There's loads we can talk about QuoteWorks to keep you active and keep you thinking about QuoteWorks and getting the most out of the system. There's a lot in there. It's a very powerful system. So please email me if you've got any ideas about future topics, something of interest to the QuoteWorks community, something of general interest to everyone. That would be really good. Thank you very much. So my name again is Tim Wilmot, company Wizard Systems. There's our contact details. Thanks for watching. Have a good day and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.